Good morning, Alex.
Morning time. How are you?
I'm all right, but how about you?
I'm still here.
You've
Been
been through the
been
wars?
yes, been to the hospital, had every experience, seen it all from a different perspective, I guess.
So we know you as a doctor, as a liaison psychiatrist who knows about delirium, published about delirium.
Yeah, same as you.
So let's talk about your experience as a psychiatrist uh, on the other end, as a patient.
Okay. Well, where would you like to start?
Let's start with getting you tested, getting positive. How are you
Okay.
getting on to start
Okay.
with?
So I was getting a little bit unwell, flu-like symptoms. I didn't know that it was COVID that would later become a delirium, but in truth, I was suspicious of a COVID. So I went to get a test whilst it was available. It was a walk-in center. Thank the Lord, the walk-in center was available. And yeah, I went on the 6th of September, and on the 8th of September, it came back positive. And track and trace were constantly emailing, texting, calling, who have you been in contact with? So I guess they're doing their job to some extent. And I was unwell. I was frankly physically unwell. But then after 2, 3 weeks, I started to get better, started to improve, but I could just never get fully well. And in fact, I had, I would say, new symptoms: headache, poor concentration, abdominal symptoms. Maybe I wasn't eating, maybe I wasn't drinking, but I was definitely not fresh. I was definitely not 100%. I was stuck in a little bit of a rut, to be honest, at the end there. And that meant I was getting stressed because I had this tension between going back to work and not. In fact, the government said, go back to work, stay at home, save the NHS, rush back as soon as possible. So I was getting in a catch 22. Go back to work unwell or stay off. What do you do?
So sounds as if you started having some psychiatric
Well,
symptoms.
yes, but they don't just begin like a textbook. They begin subtly. They begin subtly. Like if you had poor concentration, you have to, read your email 3 times to understand what it means. Is that a psychiatric symptom? Possibly. If you have poor sleep for 3 nights, is that a psychiatric? It probably, it's either a contributory factor or it is a related symptom. But what happens when your concentration really goes down and you start getting confused about what is what in the world? Like, what is confusion? What is paranoia? In a nutshell, I can see it from a psychiatrist's side, like with insight. It's what happens when your view of the world gets more and more shaky. Something in your brain is not hanging on to all the facts and all the kind of stakes in the ground that we establish as normal. And then when you start to lose the clarity and you lose the confidence that what's happening around you is a definite everyday phenomenon, your brain starts to look for clues. Like, could this be abnormal? Like, here's the funny thing: COVID. Write it down. It's like the most amazing delusion ever. And then I thought, this is too fantastical. Like what's happening left and right, all these guidelines, the immunization, everyone's confused. I thought, could this be my delusion?
So the lockdown, the social circumstances, everything was putting.
I thought it was too fantastical to be a reality.
So, as someone who deals with delirium day in day out, we know that it's like a jigsaw. You need to paint a picture. You need to look at the investigations, the physical status, the background. You're a pretty fit and healthy guy, switched on. If I
Yeah,
send you an email, Alex, I need reference for this. In 10 minutes, you will send me the whole shebang.
yeah, true.
Now you were struggling mentally,
Yes,
becoming paranoid.
pretty much.
You were a bit manic,
Definitely that was there.
and you end up in hospital.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's delirium and not a brief psychotic or a brief manic episode?
Well, first of all, it
Without
could
going
be,
into classification systems, I know you know them by heart.
all right. In a nutshell, there's certain features of delirium which push you in that direction based on clinical symptoms and signs. And then there's the question of causation. In a classic psychosis, stress and other psychological tensions have caused that episode. And because stress, as we know, doesn't resolve very quickly or easily, it tends to prolong for a long time. Now, acute psychosis can begin florid like a big bang and then reduce quickly. I've seen it, especially well medicated. But the thing about delirium is generally dictated by its underlying cause. So if you are finding medical abnormalities, either severe or moderate with perhaps comorbidities, that should be raising a red flag of delirium. And as I said, this is an area of detail. We don't need to go into it. But certain symptoms and signs often point you towards more of a delirium than a psychosis.
Multifactorial etiology, what's causing the deterioration. Let's talk about prevention.
Okay.
Because I know you are a pretty fit and healthy guy. You like to cycle every day. Your lungs work very well. Your mind works very well.
Yes.
Could you have prevented?
Well, yes, I could have, but you've got to have recognition of the problem. And thing is, we're debating, could this be an acute psychosis, a beginning of a chronic psychosis, or delirium, or something other medical? All these are possibilities, but as an unwell person, juggling these scientific medical differentials are very, very hard. So the truth is, for most people, they won't know what's happening. They won't know what to do. However, that's not to say you can't enact basic self-help or survival strategies. For example, my partner said to me, I know them, but my partner had to tell me, do some meditation, do some relaxation, do some breathing exercise. And that helped in the kind of crisis moments. That was helping me. And then what about self-help? Well, for me, I always found exercise like one of the greatest treasures in life because I felt better when I was exercising. But here's the thing. When you are becoming unwell and it's getting serious, you're agitated, you're shaky, your judgment isn't good, your concentration isn't there, you have got constant headaches, and your perceptions are just beginning to get ropey. Is that the time to cycle in the Leicester traffic, at 5 p.m.? It's not, is it? It's not.
I'm glad you didn't.
Nah, but you know what?
Yeah.
I tell you, my partner said, I can see you going out the door to work on your bike as normal. Please do not do that. But I said to her, I have to do it because it's the only time I can feel well. I've got to gain control over this slippery deterioration. And she said, you're unwell. I can hear it. Just relax one more day. And I said, no, I've got to go back to work, like that drive to return. So what did I do in a slightly manic way? 10K, from my house to work. I usually cycle. It's a decent cycle, I can tell you. I decided to run it on that day. I'll run to work. Oh my God. So, you can do some things that are a bit over the top to save yourself, but you might also end up in a problem.
So let's fast forward it a little bit. Tested positive 8th, 9th September.
Yeah.
3 weeks down the line, you end up in hospital delirious.
Yes.
Let's talk about your experiences as a delirious, query hypomanic, query psychotic man on a ward, a doctor, a psychiatrist, a professor who knows academically what it is.
Okay, forget that I'm a clinician at that point. The only advantage I had is I knew the system, and actually my insight was running, and for some reason my memory was running. And as you know, often in delirium, your memory is pretty ruined during the experience, and you get this partial memory where you're not quite sure what's happened. My memory track was being laid down like solid the whole time, which is good and bad because I can remember the details now. But forget that I'm a doctor. Just imagine, how do they treat a human being? So in the ambulance, those girls, 2 girls brought me in. They were like gold, so respectful and kind, but I was a handful. Tayyeb, I was a big handful for them.
I know that.
I'm gonna perhaps annoy someone and say, when the ambulance stopped at the lights, I popped my belt off, jumped out, and I knew they couldn't catch me. I mean, I'm not boasting, but they're not going to catch me. And bless them, they turned the ambulance round in the road. They said, "Get back in, sir. We want to take you to hospital. You're not well." And I just thought, I've got really nowhere to go anyway, but I feel better. I'm in control. They called the police. The police were great. They didn't manhandle me. The female officer said, "Get back in. We'll take you to hospital." I said, "You know what? Yeah, I might as well go." So I went in, and then I got in. So those guys, there was like an error there, wasn't there? I jumped out. That's not right. But they actually did a fantastic job. They didn't bully or pressure me. They negotiated with a psychotic patient, and they got their outcome correct. I was in hospital safely.
We see that or hear about that all the time from the other end.
But they were in a vulnerable position. Let's look at it from an organizational point of view. You shouldn't have one ambulance crew in the back with a psychotic patient, unmedicated. Like, a theme of my illness was I was minimally medicated. I was asking, I need a diazepam, I need a lorazepam, I'm really ill. And they were like, "Oh, that's for the psychiatrist, just calm down." How? Calm down, how? Yeah, crazy.
So mental health act assessment is called in.
It is, but even that didn't go well, because my colleague came to see me at 4 p.m. And I'll be honest, he did a good job. He did a decent assessment. He said to me, "This is not a mental health assessment. I'm just assessing you. Outcomes, section in hospital, informal in hospital, informal out of area." And I said, "That's good. I'm unwell. I need help. It doesn't sound bad. I think I've got insight. I can make you laugh. I can see the mental health act codes. So I don't think we need a mental health act at this point." And he said, "Yeah, I think you're probably right. Go out of area, 4 p.m. I said, "But this is just today at this moment. This is today you've seen me. Come and see me again in a few hours, or even tomorrow morning." He said, "Yeah, sure, I'll come and see you." Tayyeb, he never turned up in that capacity. I was left in the side room, but unbeknown to him, I was improving all the time. Like, those staff on EDU, they were golden. The security guys, they were brilliant. They were de-escalating me. Everyone was kind,
and
that helped me.
Fluctuates. Delirium fluctuates.
So what happened when that next day came? He hadn't called me. Now, my brain is still switched on, and I'm actually improving. Insight's getting better, but my judgment is improving. And I thought, this is odd. I've been in the side room like more than 24 hours now. I've had minimal medication, but I have been treated with kindness. They have rehydrated me. The ketones in my urine, which were the red flag, probably have gone now. And they've even given me a menu. I thought, what kind of psychosis is this when they give you a menu? I could stay in this psychosis a while now. It's like a hotel, this psychosis. So that was funny. But my colleague didn't come back. So I was sneaky. I have to admit, I'm a bit of a pest as a patient. So I just said, "Can I borrow the ward phone, please?" And they said, "Yeah, sure." I rang him and I said, "Could you come and see me, please?" And he left a message, "I'll come and see you in an hour and a half." What did he do? He rang for the Mental Health Act. Now, is that fair? Or is that good communication? Is he being thorough? I don't know. Yeah. But it seemed odd to me that no one had assessed me for my improvement, sure. And now it's a Mental Health Act. That's all. And then I realized there's a balance of power issue in Mental Health Act assessments, which does not favor the patient.
So, some quick fire questions to round it up.
Go for it.
Best experience?
Meeting the staff on the front line, chatting with them, helping them. They were saying, "Oh, you're such a funny guy, cracking so many jokes." I was obviously manic. I'm not normally that funny. They said, "You're the Asian Kevin Hart." And I was like, "Oh, dude, high five." And I was helping them with their problems, which they're all solved. The lower paid the person, the less respect they're getting in society, but the more credit they're due, And generally, the more genuine they are. I just love speaking to all those guys on the front line.
Not so good experience.
There are individuals who are bad apples. You come across them. It's insecurity, in medicine. They shouldn't really be working and they are doing something wrong. But I think being under-medicated and under-helped and excessively delayed and poor communication, I'd say maybe the communication issue was the one that was the worst.
Lessons learned.
The lessons learned is anyone can get on well. You're describing me in high terms, thanks, but I'm just a normal guy. But I'm a normal guy maybe with extra insight. So anyone can get on well by not looking after yourself. I was healthy and I had no big scare medically. Like my SATs went down to low 90s, but I knew I was strong. But I also felt, you know, I'm getting weaker and I was grateful for the strength that I had. So be healthy physically and mentally in your life to prepare for an emergency that would come, and use your resources, friendships, family, whatever your resources are. That's a lesson, and that's a powerful lesson in life.
Impact on you.
I feel like I've been squashed by a truck, metaphorically. It very nearly happens on the bike every week, but this one was real, but it was because of an illness. But I feel I've rebounded out of that squish into a different area of my life, which is more positive. Like it's like a cancer scare or road traffic accident scare. I can say, I know what's important in life now. And I mean it in my heart. I mean that. And I value what I valued before, I still value, but I treasure. Like even crazy things like the environment, okay, or not another environmentalist. I think it's disgusting now that we, you know, treat animals. I think it's even disgusting. We have animals in zoos and we eat animals. We eat lambs just for a snack. Okay, look, I don't want to have a rant, but what I mean is these facets have been amplified. But I treasure things in the world. I treasure the environment. I treasure people more, and I treasure myself and my abilities. So there's so many insights. I would say it's been a good experience, not a bad one.
More teaching for delirium?
The NHS is massively under-resourced. We all need to be educated. I mean, I didn't know really what psychosis was until this week. That's a strange thing. We all need to work together. Now, there is a gap between how the physical medical hospitals and the mental health hospitals work together. Very rarely in a system, they've got it down. It's working well. I'll tell you a golden rule. Somebody comes to A&E agitated, distressed, possibly psychotic. You do not need to spend hours working out the differential, calling left, right, and center. Medicate that person with diazepam or lorazepam within the first half an hour, modest dose, just to control the situation. And then if it's not controlling, repeat it. And then later, work it up, get your differential, do the medical investigations. But don't leave that patient 4, 6, 8 hours unmedicated. Give them basic food and nutrition. You know, give that straight away within an hour, and do that for every patient.
Well, Alex, it's fascinating talking to you today. I'm so pleased to see you well or getting better.
Not there yet. I recognize that.
Hopefully, we'll meet soon.
We will.
And give you my warm embrace as usual, and we'll be back to normal.
Definitely. And I hope you can use this material to give insights into others that, yes, this is a scary experience, but this is part of life. You and I know deliriums are occurring all day, every day in the hospital, aren't they? Multiple causes. This is not just about COVID, but COVID is now a new cause that we need to be aware of.
So the lessons I've learned from this discussion, it can obviously happen to anyone, even fittest people. We need to talk more about delirium, make sure that people know about it. And there are symptoms beyond the chesty, temperature, fatigue type symptoms, the neuropsychiatric symptoms. And that's why we need to keep our eyes open and be kind.
and make more mental health resources available and acceptable out there, because I knew what resources available, but I still didn't know who to ask, or, I knew my family, but you caught in a little bit of a double bind when you have a deterioration. You find it harder to ask for help. Your judgment says, I don't know who to ask. And the NHS says, we're available, but we're not on your door. We're somewhere.
Yeah. And do you know what? I had similar sort of experience with another patient who, very nice lady, pre-morbidly. She came, she attacked me, she pushed me out of the COVID cohort ward, literally strong-armed me. And the issues around PPE and all those things came up. Anyways, Alex, Professor Mitchell, good to see you getting well.
You too. Take care. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks for doing this.
All right. Take care, Tayyeb. Have a good day.
Bye
See
now.
you. Bye.